Beyond Skin is an intercultural arts collective building peace and social cohesion, founded 20 years ago by Darren Ferguson, who joins us now. Darren, you're very welcome to NVTV.
Thank you for the invite.
Where do we start? I mean, it's such a big story. I guess what we have to do, though, is start at the beginning. Where did the idea come from?
I suppose all our journeys are influenced by certain people. So it was kind of the universe kind of throwing a lot of things in my path. I am a musician, a very rusty one now. I was signed to a record label. I was involved in that kind of sphere, and I also did development aid work. And then it was everything coming together where Belfast made international headlines as racist hate capital of Europe in 2003. I'd seen a project called One Giant Leap. I was influenced by Peter Gabriel and what he was doing with Amnesty. And Nitin Sawhney, album Beyond Skin, from which we took our name, was a big influence as well. And a lot of the kind of the art punk stuff going on with Factory Records, the KLF and what Hypnosis were doing with album covers, all that kind of stuff influenced kind of how Beyond Skin kind of germinated in a way.
But how did you make it happen?
So One Giant Leap wasn't our project. It was produced by Jamie Caddo and Duncan Bridgman. They travelled around the world trying to find what it means to be a human, and it was all done through the medium of the arts and music. So it was screening that in Belfast, which was why I set up Beyond Skin, to get money from Belfast City Council, Communications Council at the time as well. And it was to facilitate the film screenings that, plus getting the guys over and the band over to perform. So we did that without actually thinking, well, what comes next? So it was really just to set up to facilitate that at the very start.
But what was the we in this story? Because I'm only aware of your involvement, so...
I suppose when I set Beyond Skin, I pulled a few friends together. It was all new to me. When City Council says, well, we can't fund you, you need to be an association or a charity of some sort. So I formed Beyond Skin as an association with a board of mostly friends, and got our stuff in place, our policies and so on, and got it turned around pretty quickly, and away we went. We're off.
What had you been doing up to that point?
I was working for Concern Worldwide, a development aid agency, which I loved, and I was still working for them when I set up Beyond Skin. And then after the One Giant Leap project, when things really started to take off, I had to choose. It's easy walking away from a job you hate. It's hard walking away from a job you really love. And I had to kind of say to Concern Worldwide, I'm moving on and I'm going to pursue this, even though there was no money for wages or nothing in place at that time, which is probably still the case now, to be honest. But anyway, that's how it all started.
What were your early projects? Apart from the Setup project, what were your early projects?
Well, after we did One Giant Leap, the idea was, I didn't need to travel to 50 countries to find musicians and artists and find out how they express their identity and their sense of belonging, because people have come to our shores from all those countries. So we got funding, which in those days was far better, because we got funding to hire a recording studio for 6 months with the McPeak family. They had a recording studio here, Francie, and we just invited artists in without any real plan of what would come out the other end. So you'd have a saxophonist come in from Poland, would hear what a bass guitarist from Slovakia put down, he would layer over it and then say, oh, I work in a call centre with this guy from Venezuela who plays some percussion, can I get him in? And it kind of just happened like that. It became what was called the Motion Project.
That's what we now call growing organically.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a fabulous way to do it. You had a lot of help, though, in the early days. You came across some great people. You mentioned Peter Gabriel, for instance. And you formed a relationship with WOMAD.
Yes, I did.
So how did that develop?
It's a delicate subject because it came out of Derry City of Culture, really, where WOMAD was meant to be part of that, but local politics, as they say, got in the way of that, so it didn't go through. And that forged our relationship with WOMAD, where we did stuff with the WOMAD Foundation and did a whole education programme here around the world of music, arts and dance. So the foundation were very supportive towards that as well, and then we've been really helping each other out, doing stuff and share promotion and taking some artists across to their festivals as well. And it's been a really fruitful relationship, to be honest. And
you've done some wonderful stuff with WOMAD, you've put on some great events across the city and probably further afield as well.
Yeah, we did that whole education programme where it was mostly workshop based with some showcase events where kids would get on stage and adults showing what they learned by working with a dancer from Senegal or something like that. And then I suppose where everything really came to a colossal peak in a way was with the Afghan project then, which WOMAD were one of the sponsors on that, with musicians from a traditional arts partnership at the side, 2 young singers, Karen Kea and members from the Afghan Women's Orchestra.
And we're going to talk about that a wee bit later on. I just want to stay with WOMAD for a second, because the wonderful energy displayed by the enablers, by the people showing dance from Senegal, and from the young people and the not so young people trying to dance, trying to loosen themselves up. Fabulous stuff.
It is, and one thing I've learned from WOMAD is their standards are very high, like incredibly high, and there is a kind of I don't know what it is. The way people look at community arts is, we can get away with doing something amateur because it's community arts, whereas WOMAD really taught me is, no matter who you engage in a project, whether they're professional artists or not, the outcome, the output has to be spectacular and at a really high professional level. So we've always maintained to have that level of expectations and really push people that they can go beyond what they thought they're capable of.
Starting where you started, of course, in this divided community, and we talk about community singular, but as we know, it's communities plural here. Very divided communities. One of the things I tripped over the other day and just loved was marching metal.
Yes.
How did that happen?
We've had a really good relationship with some of the loyalist bands here, which again, in my experience, and I mentioned this at our birthday event, there's nothing puts the fear of the local councils more than mentioning the BFAP flute, and I can understand some of the why in that, but at the end of the day, these are musicians, represent a huge part of our heritage here and community, and so many people are involved in marching bands here. So we've always worked with that community because they're musicians and they're sharing their culture. And we took Davy from the Shankill Defenders Sri Lanka one year, and we did some incredible stuff. So marching metal came leading up to Make Music Day, 21st of June. And I suppose we'll all argue whose idea it was. I think it was just the thought of, I think Glenn Miller was a big part of it. Me and him were both real rock fans. And we talked about, merging kind of heavy metal music with the loyalist band music. And we hired a studio. We stuck them in the studio, and then it came out really good. I think better than we all expected. And then we asked a guy, Matt Killen, to do a music video, and that's where it just went through the roof. It was amazing, and it came out so well. There's a bit of Spinal Tap in there somewhere, a bit of comedy, but the end product again is a really high level production. It was well received from all parts of the community.
And any plans for a follow-up?
Yes, let's just say it'll be done on a boat. Let's see, a bit of a reference to the Duran Duran video, but we're kind of working on plans there at the minute. That
sounds absolutely fabulous. So it's not the Stena Ferry then, no?
No, it won't be the Stena Ferry, no.
I've looked at a lot of your work. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, this has been fun for me, looking at the fabulous stuff you've been doing. But one of the pieces that struck me beautifully, I'm going to totally mispronounce the name, by the way, but I'm going to say it's called Hoo Hoo Yahoo, and
yes.
The collaborations are brilliant. How did it happen?
So we're working with a Chinese musician, Wei Ding, who's a fabulous tune player. It's like a horizontal harp, Chinese harp. And we're working also with Mark Smillian, a really professional music producer who's, platinum awards to his name and stuff, working with bands. So we flew him over, and it was working with a lot of musicians at risk who have come to our shores as well. And I think for Wei, that project in particular was the first time she could improvise. So she never really improvised before and worked with other musicians, and it's something which kind of opened her world a bit, and she really enjoyed, and she was kind of lead musician on that, but also musicians are from Iran and Eritrea, and Kira as well, who's American-Armenian kind of roots. So a Mark at the helm then, and start together music studios. So again, it's one of those productions that came out really well because, well, Mark was at the controls and Niall at Start Together Music Studios, who are very professional, engineers and producers at the helm.
Absolutely mind-blowing.
It's great, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of work must inspire you to keep pushing, to keep exploring the boundaries.
It is. It's a hard one with funders. Funders like you to see you go from A to B. We never really know what B is going to be, in a way, and it's hard to get that on paper when you're applying for this stuff, because it's a happening. You're getting a space and putting people in that space with no boundaries or no agenda in a way, and letting them freely create, and whatever comes out the end is the B. So it's very hard to sometimes put that on paper to funders, when you're trying to get support.
Of course it is. We've talked about a conflict. We've talked about people arriving on our shores. Say a bit more about the people you've met, the musicians you've met who've arrived on our shores and the difficulties they face.
We've always worked with people seeking refuge, and we set up a scheme, MARS, as affectionately known as. It's shortened for the Musicians and Artists at Risk Resettlement Scheme, which is quite a mouthful, but it was support, an extra layer of support for artists coming to our shores seeking sanctuary. And every single one of them has a traumatic story. Every single one of them has been to hell and back and there again, and music has been the kind of anchor for them regarding their mental health, regarding integration, language skills, and just keeping a base for them where they can meet other musicians and go through the healing process. As you know, music and arts is a great healer, so that scheme's been fantastic. And the people who have come to our shores, conservatoire material musicians, really highly skilled, professional, that, if allowed, I always say it's like having a treasure chest, but some of our decision makers are sitting on the lid, because if we were really to let all these people really be free in what they do and embrace them and support them in their skills, it would send our economy through the roof and really contribute to our UNESCO city heritage. So
clearly you meet a lot of people coming out of countries that are troubled, that are in conflict. And one of the examples, the title of the track is called Sisters.
Yes.
I think the lead singer is from Ukraine.
Yes, Masha, yes.
Absolutely amazing collaboration again.
Yeah.
Say a bit about the collaboration and how that emerged.
Again, we've used Start Together Studios a lot. It's always been a great incubator, as I call it, for things just happening. And we were in the studio, we invited Masha, who was signposted to us from Ukraine, just to come into the studio and hang out and meet other musicians and all. And then after a bit of coaxing, we got her up to the microphone to sing like a cover version of a song she liked, and she was amazing. So from then on in, it was like, we should do something with you. What would you like to do? And she mentioned a cover version of a song by the Hard Kiss, a Ukrainian band she liked to cover. And we heard it, so that sounds amazing. It'd be really good if we put a choir in there and we kind of punk rocked it up a bit, And I know exactly the people to call to do that, So we got our friends at Cut Rubber, the punk band, and Kirsty as well, who ran Lisburn Harmony Choir, and we just put that together and then did the spectacular video filmed in the OEA Music Centre and at Belfast Castle as well. And it just came out again, another very high quality production and a very moving production as well. The translation of it is fabulous and galvanised many relationships, and Masha ended up doing a lot of gigs with Cut Rubber as in their kind of mini tour as well. So
it's good to hear of a progression. So you do a project and it turns out beautifully.
Yeah.
And if it just sat on the shelf, that would be sad. But
Yeah.
the fact that people are progressing beyond the initial introductions that you make.
Yeah, it's all these relationships forging, and that kind of cross-pollination of creativity is ongoing daily, because people have met. And when you're producing something or doing a project together, there's always challenges, and you have that journey together. And when you come out the other end and it's you've achieved something, then the bonding that's took place in relationships is trust that will last a lifetime. And so we've always seen the outcomes of that as being really good relationships have forged in.
Have you any success stories that you can share with us where people have arrived, maybe even without an instrument, and have, through yourselves and through the relationships you've built, gone on to develop careers in the thing they love, in the arts, in music?
Well, we're working with a gentleman at the minute, Omid from Iran, one of the most professional music producers I've ever met, and he plays about 15 instruments. And he's got his right to work status now. We've got him. He's going to be working on the Belfast 2024 programme with us. But when he was going through the asylum process, aware of the news headlines out there and the rhetoric coming from our UK government, the Home Office and so on, as a professional musician, still felt he wasn't valued and people didn't want him here. So again, it was our friends at WOMAD, Annie at Taste the World stage at WOMAD, says, look, we've got a gap to fill here, and our artists can't make it. Have you any ideas? And I says, well, this guy Omid and as a singer Nazim from Iran have been working together. If we got them over, that would be spectacular, because there they are being invited to play on a really prestigious stage at a very prestigious festival, and that would really shake some stereotypes of we have professional people on our shores that's recognised by these big prestigious arts organisations and festivals, but aren't being recognised by our government. So they went over to WOMAD and they were treated like VIPs and played with next to all the big great artists over there, and played a blinder of a festival where they cooked food as well. And I think for their morale boost as well, that was huge.
I came across a festival you did down in Newcastle a couple of years back, which involved exactly that.
Yes.
It was music and it was food.
Yes.
The two culturally significant things. As I say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Where did the backing for that come from?
So that was Taste the World. So it was the stage they have at WOMAD Festival in Wiltshire, their UK festival, because WOMAD have festivals all over the world. So it was Annie and Roger who managed that stage. We invited them to bring that stage really to Newcastle, and it was part funded through the Newry Morning Down Council as well. And again, that format works really well, and they host it so well, Roger and Annie, because you have people cooking while they're mic'd up singing, and while there's musicians down here playing along, and there's breakdancers over here dancing, and it merges it all together. It's not like we're going to stop now and have food, or everything's kind of merged together. I've seen some great acts again at the WOMAD Festival, where again you have somebody who's stirring a walk with a headset singing away while the band's playing along, and it's like, that's brilliant. That's where it just all comes together, and how humans function at our best around music, arts, food, green spaces.
And I'm just sitting here saying, Saturday morning cookery shows,
yes,
eat your hearts out.
I know.
Because that kind of thing is so unique and so empowering. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I'm wondering, are you getting proper support from broadcast outlets like the BBC, like ITVX, who should be looking at what local artists are doing? Actually,
since we set up that Mars scheme 3 years ago, the media have been really good to us, and we've worked closely with the media regarding how we put out articles, what language we use, because it's always a positive news story, but with the kind of tragedy embedded in there. We've got to be very careful how people are identified with. Terms like asylum seeker and refugee is not people's identity, and we've got very careful at language, and a lot of musicians we work with don't want to be called that. They're a father, they're a mother, they're a musician, they're a footballer, they're a chef, they're a Pink Floyd fan. They have other aspects of their identity which they want to say, this is who I am, not this label that people give me. So we've worked very closely with media on that, and a lot of the stories have got really good traction and challenged some people as well about their views.
And airplay?
Airplay, yeah, we've been very good. We're speaking to BBC again today, and I think we just need a bit more push from especially Belfast City Council with the UNESCO music status, that we really exercise that label and really embrace and protect a lot of music coming to our shores, especially from the likes of Afghanistan, where in a parallel universe in Kabul, as we sit here, music is banned, which is just crazy to imagine.
And that's a very timely mention of Afghanistan, because I want to ask you about the collaborations you've done with Afghanistan, particularly with the Afghanistan National Institute of Music. Yeah. A lovely piece I saw on one of your videos. Fell in love with the idea, but was also, I think, taken aback by the context.
Yes.
So maybe you'd say a bit about the context. 2
video productions were done during COVID. The troops were still in Afghanistan, but there's still significant risks to the girls, especially there. So that was definitely lots of sleepless nights. Again, we had an incredible team. Mark Smillian was in production, as well Casper, another young production assistant as well. We had Benjamin Wu, who is a composer, who scored the music from merging kind of the Afghan sound with the more kind of Celtic traditional Irish sound as well. And both sides worked incredibly hard to make that happen, and it came out really well, and it challenged a lot of things as well, because we were singing on it at a time when the Ministry of Education had banned girls from singing in Afghanistan, influenced by the Taliban. So it was the young people's choice. Karen Kay especially says, we want to put vocals on this song, write lyrics for it, and they did that, and it came out really well. And Italia was another producer involved who kind of made it all work visually.
And you know, it's produced a beautiful sound, striking images, and of course out of Afghanistan you've also had a very recent visitor.
Yes.
Could you say a little bit about her arrival in Northern Ireland and what that did for us here?
So Alina, again, there's a big network came together when Kabul fell to the Taliban, and it rippled out across Afghanistan, especially with gender apartheid and the ban on music and arts. So the International Campaign for Afghan Musicians came together, and through that I met wonderful people who had some connection to Afghanistan, where we all try to work out together how we help people at that end. A really renowned composer called Sadie Harrison answered Alina's pleas for help. So that's how I met Alina. Sadie managed to get her a scholarship in Bangladesh University, and which is one thing, but it took a year and a half to actually get Alina past Taliban checkpoints out of Afghanistan to Bangladesh. So she's been there for 5 months, and then the idea was we would bring her over to Northern Ireland for International Women's Day, which had significant visa challenges, as you can imagine, which we overcame, as we always seem to do, thanks to a lot of friends who really helped us out. And she was over here for Northern Ireland for 10 days and spoke at the University of Ulster, Queen's University, the rally for International Women's Day at City Hall with Reclaim the Agenda, which I think was one of the most significant moments. And in her speech she talks about being an Afghan girl, not allowed to play music or do art, standing in front of City Hall, speaking to thousands of people freely in a UNESCO City of Music was like a major kind of victory in a way. So that was spectacular. And then we had an invite over to Westminster as well, and we also met some institutes over there like PRS for Music, and some people have bought some of her paintings as well. First Steps Women's Centre in Dungannon put on a spectacular event for her as well. They were great. So she had a whirlwind tour, but definitely off a scale, you know, and she has managed to open the door for other Afghan women, and triggered, I suppose, a renewal Westminster discussion and probably a Belfast City Council discussion about Afghanistan and about our responsibility, you know. Especially, I feel it's really personally myself, as somebody who's born in Belfast in a UNESCO music city, you know, I have that responsibility now to my brothers and sisters in Afghanistan who aren't able to exercise music and have that freedom. So, and I really feel everybody else should too. So I have a bit of a mission with that one.
Darren, I'm sitting here, I'm blown away. 20 years of giving people voices, of sharing wonderful gifts of musicianship and art with each other from right across the world. Huge learnings, huge joy in what you're doing. How sustainable is it going forwards?
Well, I'm getting older, let's put it that way. You know, I have a grey hair for every day. I think my advice to anybody, you know, is partnerships and trust, and surround yourself with skills, people who have skills that are better than you in some way, you know. There's no way I could have done this as one man show. I've always surrounded myself with people who have the skills, especially people who have the skills but don't know it themselves. Maybe I can see it in them, and they just need that wee bit of a platform to find what they have. I've an amazing wife as well and family behind me, so it's definitely what I always say is teamwork. I seem to always be at the helm, pictured leading this ship, but it's actually a whole crew around me, locally and internationally, that makes this work. It's usually me saying yes to something, and then everybody else in a panic behind me with the skills, picking up the pieces and making it happen. So there's a bit of that going on. So I'm deeply grateful for the people I have around me who always figure out a way around the problem. You know, artists are are problem solvers. We're quite devious sometimes as well. We always find a way around things creatively. So when you have that diverse team around you, you can do anything. You really can. It's just taking that risk and that step.
We see the odd clip on YouTube if we look for them. Where else do we find product from what you're doing? Where else can we hear more of what you're doing?
We have a very extensive website, beyondskin.net. All the archive stuff's on there. Very active on social media, so you'll find stuff buried within our social media. I say any visual stuff, we try to upload it to YouTube as well. But I would say people just follow us on your Twitter or X, as they call it, Threads, your Instagram, Facebooks, and follow what we're doing, because we do put out content daily, because there's so much content coming in. And I think it's good for people to see what's going on, because sometimes people don't see or what we're doing some of the times. A lot are private events, but we can still put the videos online, and it's really interesting stuff and really enjoyable.
Darren Ferguson and Beyond Skin, to coin an Ulster Scots expression, lang may your lum reek. Long may you continue to do the brilliant work you're doing, and just to go a bit Gaeilgeoir as well, slán go fóill.